Man, you know what? As I'm cleaning this camera hump here on the iPhone 14 Pro, I started thinking about like how much time I've spent over the last like 15 years cleaning smartphones so they look good on camera for you. But anyway, so I went with the deep purple here on the iPhone 14 Pro, and I'm liking it. It doesn't really scream purple. It's not like a Barney purple or anything, but it is very subtle. But once the light hits it just nicely, you will see that purple come out. But you know what? I typically wouldn't go for a purple phone unless it's done like this, unless it's actually kind of subtle. But Space Black is normally my default, but I'm happy with my choice this year. And yeah, just comparing this iPhone 14 Pro to the iPhone 13 Pro, it doesn't look that much different, but you will see that the cameras on the camera hump of the 14 Pro, they poke out a little bit more. But besides that, these phones are going to be very, very similar looking, except for you're missing the SIM card slot that you see here on the iPhone 13 Pro. You do not have that on the iPhone 14 Pro now because it is all eSIM. So no physical SIM cards anymore, just the electronic SIMs. Now, this is my first time using eSIM, so I did set it up for the first time during my unboxing and setup process. So the unboxing consisted of the usual USB-C to Lightning cable, and then also you will find a little card there letting you know about eSIM and also an Apple sticker. But then once I got the phone booted up, so I just needed to bring the phone side by side to this iPhone 14 Pro, and it automatically detected it. And then I was going through my regular, restoring from an iCloud backup, but also you do the eSIM port, and it just really is just a couple of taps on your end, but eventually that number ported over to the eSIM in this iPhone 14 Pro. And so yeah, I got everything set up. Face ID, iOS 16 is updated on this bad boy. I need to organize my apps on my home screen. But anyway, one thing I do want to do real quick is just to customize the lock screen here, so I can go ahead and tap and hold on that, customize, and now new in iOS 16 is the ability to add widgets. So I'm going to add the weather widget, and then I'll also add some calendar events there. And I think I can add one more. Let me add out my workout rings there, and then go ahead and X out of that. And then now I can hit done, and now that's going to be saved on my lock screen, and boom, there we go. But this video is really all about my first 24 hours with this iPhone 14 Pro. So what I did is just make sure this phone was topped off at 100%. I put it on the MagSafe charger, which is still supported this year. So yeah, here's my first 24 hours with the iPhone 14 Pro. All right, so I know a lot of people want to know about the cameras on the iPhone 14 Pro. So I'm recording this video right now using the front-facing camera at 4K 30 frames per second in ProRes, and also the audio is coming from the built-in microphones. And so right now I'm down here at the graffiti wall, which goes like, I think 2 miles down the riverfront here out here in St. Louis. And so a lot of people come down here and paint some cool stuff. But on my way down here, I was able to take some video of me riding this really cool electric bike, the Kakua Rampage Pro that I'm testing right now. But I was able to get a lot of good footage with the rear-facing cameras, again at 4K 30 frames per second at ProRes. Now I also put my iPhone on my tripod, and I went for a shot of me riding the bike and trying to capture the front wheel. And I'm testing out the new action stabilization mode in the iPhone 14 Pro, and this is going to be giving you some gimbal-like stabilization, and it's going to crop in a little bit to achieve this. But if you are going to be running or doing something very active, this is going to be something that's going to be good for you. But I did a side-by-side comparison, and I found that just the regular stabilization that the iPhone has for the videos is actually just really solid by itself. But this is something for those extreme circumstances where you're going to be running at like a full sprint or something like that. But of course, I know people are going to be typing in the chat. Android users have had this feature for years, especially on Samsung devices, but it's on the iPhone right now, and I'll test it a little bit more as time goes on, but it's not a bad feature to have. Oh, and you do get a bump up in megapixels with the main camera. So on the iPhone 13 Pro, the main camera came in at 12 megapixels, but you're getting 48 megapixels with this iPhone 14 Pro. So what this means is that if you are going to be cropping in on your photos, you're going to have more information, more quality to work with there versus the lower megapixel count on the iPhone 13 Pro. But also new this year is a new 2x optical zoom mode on the 14 Pro. So with the 13 Pro, you had 1x and also 3x optical zoom. Now on this 14 Pro, you have 1, 2, and 3x optical zoom. So let me do a battery check real quick. So I am at 88%. So I started at 100% maybe like an hour ago, but I've been recording a lot of ProRes video, maybe like 30 minutes or so worth of footage so far. So 88% with the screen brightness on maximum is not that bad for the work that I'm putting in right now. But now I'm about to get back on my bike and ride off. But I'm gonna show you some photos and stuff that I was able to take down here at the graffiti wall. Man, all right, so let's take a break here for a second. So let me see what my battery is right now. So it's about 5 o'clock. I think I started like filming around like 2 o'clock or so, but we're at 73%, and I've been taking a lot of video and a lot of photos. But also, let me go ahead and point out that I am protecting my iPhone 14 Pro right now using this case from UAG. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but I'll put it somewhere on the screen here. But yeah, it's a pretty decent case so far, but let me take the phone out of the case so I can get a nice feel for it when I'm talking to you. All right, so now let's talk about the most talked about feature of this iPhone 14 Pro, and that's going to be the dynamic island. So basically the notch of the 13 Pro is kind of just separated from the top of the phone now, and now it lives by itself. So that's where they get the island theme from. But hold on. Before we go on, let me go ahead and go on record and say that I actually like the name Dynamic Island. It's one of those names that people who aren't even techies, they know the name, they know of it. And so even if you feel like it is an ugly name, it is catchy. But anyway, so this Dynamic Island is cool because it does react to certain apps and certain functions. So if you are using like the clock app to start a timer, when you minimize the clock application or just go back to your home screen, basically it will live up there in the dynamic island, and that timer will be counting down, and then when it does end, it will give you that familiar pop-up to let you know, and also that familiar sound as well. And then if you are listening to music using the music app and you do minimize that application, you'll see a little kind of mini player that's in the dynamic island, and then now you can either just tap on it once to be able to go back into the music app, or you can tap and hold to make it a little bit bigger, and then now you'll be able to scrub through that song, or you can actually go between your songs back and forth, or you can pause and play it. And then if you do have two things going on, say you do have a timer and also you're playing music, both of those can live together up in that dynamic island as well. And then as like the timer goes away, you'll get that pop up. And once you close that away, then you'll just have the music living up there. So I think this is something cool. It's not going to change my life, but it definitely takes advantage of that space at the top of the phone that normally is reserved for these little, icons of your apps when they do have notifications and things. Now this feels more alive. It feels like Apple is taking advantage of it. And because Face ID is still really good, probably the best facial recognition in the game right now, and it still needs to have those black cutouts for the technology to work, this is the best thing that Apple can do right now until they figure out a way to be able to put all of that Face ID technology behind the screen. And so it makes it seem like you don't have anything there, but Face ID will still work. But I still think that we're a couple of years off from that. But I think this dynamic island is definitely something that's going to hold us over until then. And I think it'll get better with time. And also I'm really interested to see what other apps actually take advantage of it. And now let's talk about the second most talked about feature, and this is going to be the always on display. Now hold up, Android users. I know you're about to say you had it for years. Again, another one of those features, but Apple is the only company that makes phones running iOS, so they did take their time, but I do think it is done very well. And that's because the screen can go down from 120 hertz down to 1 hertz when it is in the always on display mode. So this means that what Apple's been able to do with the technology of the screen is still make this always on display one of the brighter ones that I've used. So you can still see the clock, you can still see your widgets, you can also still see if you do have music playing. So everything seems very bright and clear, and I'm out here still with some sunlight, and it just kind of looks like it's not an always on display. So it's the least always on display that I've ever used. Hopefully that makes sense. But I do have to say that there is room for improvement, and I do wish that Apple did give you some more controls on how bright that always on display gets. So maybe a low, medium, and high brightness setting, or even just a slider. But for now, it's just what you see is what you get with this always on display. And as far as battery life, I think some people are concerned about how much battery this will be draining, but people like iPhondo have done some battery tests, and they found that with the always on display on, you're looking at maybe losing like 0.5 or 1% of your battery life. So it's something very minimal, so it's not really that bad. So I'm not concerned with battery life with leaving this on all the time. But all right, let me get out of here because it's about to get dark here in St. Louis and I shouldn't be over here. So let me go to my next spot. Okay, so now it is nighttime, so I'm going to be testing out the new flash on this 14 Pro. So it should be a little bit more flattering for skin tones and things like that, a more like natural look instead of the very harsh flash that we sometimes get. So here is a comparison with the Galaxy S22 Ultra and the iPhone 13 Pro. Okay, so I went to bed a little bit early last night. I'm getting old, people, but it's about 8 o'clock in the morning right now. So when I did wake up, I did check my battery and I was a little around 10%. So I didn't feel like I'll have enough battery to be able to come out here, take some photos and videos and record this video. So I did throw it on the charger for a little bit. But yeah, anyway, I came out here because I wanted to take some photos using the Galaxy S22 Ultra and also the iPhone 14 Pro, because I think those two are going to be kind of put against each other, you know, for at least the next few months as we look at who has like the best overall camera. And so this isn't my full comparison, but I did take some photos and videos that I'm showing you right now. And I'm assuming that my personal preferences are still going to like the photos coming out of the S22 Ultra. And then also when it comes to videos, I'm going to be leaning towards the iPhone 14 Pro. So I'm just guessing that right now from my years of using these smartphones, but I think still both phones are still going to be able to produce good things in both of those categories. Okay, we made it. We made it to the 24-hour mark here with this phone. And the easy way for me to describe my experience so far is that, look, if you're coming from the iPhone 13 Pro, it's not going to feel like a major leap in innovation. But if you are upgrading from the iPhone 12 Pro, you will notice those things like that 120 hertz display. And that's definitely going to make your life a little bit better. And then if you're coming from the 11 Pro and on, you're really going to feel like you're living in the future with this phone because of that increased battery life, the really great display, the camera improvements from the 11 Pro to the 14 Pro are going to be really, really big for a lot of people, in my opinion. And depending on your level of techiness, whether or not you just really want to have the latest and greatest all the time, it's going to really matter on how you actually view this phone. But I really love this always on display. And I also like the fact that if you do have your Apple Watch paired to this iPhone and you do like leave the house to go take out the garbage or something, it will turn off the always on display to even help preserve battery life. But anyway, let me get out of here. So I want to know what you think about this phone. Obviously, leave your comment down below. I know a lot of people are going to have some different thoughts about it, but let me know down those comments below. Hit this like button if you did like this video. And like always, I do want to thank you for watching, and I will catch you later. Peace.